was fun. Okay, that's nice. All right. I'm gonna take my glasses off because I don't know what's up with the ring light. But hi everyone, I'm Kelsey. I'm from Nosy Possum, and I wanted to live stream today just to essentially give you guys an overview of sewing, different machines. Of course, my dog has decided to join me. He has literally not been down here the entire time that I've been down here, the last like 3 hours. And then of course he's like, oh, mom is doing something. I am gonna go and bother her. But I just wanted to essentially talk about different machines. I've got one of my machines here, and I've got a different machine in front of me, and then a different machine, and then a different machine, and a different machine. But I essentially just wanted to talk about different types of machines, different types of needles, thread, kind of just the basics and the kind of stuff that like I didn't really know when I was getting into sewing, because I saw stuff on Facebook and PDF patterns, and I was like, that looks awesome. I want to do that, and I did not know what I was doing. And I'm not the type of person to read the manual, watch a video. I don't like watching videos. I've gotten better at watching them over the time, but I much prefer to read things, I'm a technical writer, so I'm definitely a type of person who likes to read things and that type of stuff. But first up, we'll talk about different types of machines. So right here, I have a Juki TL18 QVP, which stands for Quilt Virtuoso Pro. Have I ever quilted a day in my life? No. I'm going to learn how to quilt this year. But I bought this machine originally because when I joined my makerspace, we had like Walmart brothers and donated machines from people. And they aren't bad, but they were ones that have been like through the paces, like people put whatever bobbin they thought fit in there and needle, and that just didn't work for me, and I needed something that I could travel with me to retreats and different stuff like that and take with me to different events. So I bought this, and it's gotten a little bit more expensive over time, but I would recommend if you're interested in purchasing any type of Juki. I don't think she has industrials anymore, I'm not sure, but Juki Junkies, she has a ton of different supplies, accessories, parts, feet, all different types of stuff. Bobbins and all that kind of stuff for Jukis. But I've always been a fan of Jukis. If we're going to talk about different types of machines, it does not matter the quality or the type of machine, except for those like handheld or the little teeny tiny like plastic kids machines. I'll tell you now, don't waste your money on those. Don't get the handheld, don't get the tiny little plastic things because they'll break, they don't work, and you'll get frustrated. Usually what I've told people is to go on Facebook Marketplace and search for Kenmore sewing machine. They're probably not as common anymore as they were probably like 10 years ago when I got into sewing. And of course, I lived in an area in Arizona at the time that was like a ton of retirees. So it was really easy for me to go and get used machines and different things like that. I remember I met some lady, I don't remember what I bought from her, but she was in the retirement community and she had a ton of sewing stuff and she gave it to me and she was like, enjoy, have it. And she tried to get me to join some thing that I was like, no, but thanks. And then come to find out later, it was like oh my God, it was like the Daughters of the American Revolution. And I was like, no. So anyways, back to the machines because I tend to be a yapper and get off topic. Back to these. So this is a straight stitch only machine. This has no computerization. It can only do one type of stitch. And if we're talking about different types of machines, there are types of machines that will have a ton of different types of stitch types. I've done a ton of different stitch types. This one only has one, and I bought it to make bags, things like dog collars, guitar straps, clothing, quilting, all different kinds of stuff. Basically, only thing that I would need is stuff that I would use a straight stitch for. And then eventually I was like, that's nice. I need something heavier duty because I was making fursuit things, and the fur is pretty thick, and this, it probably could, but it was not its favorite. And then, so I ended up, before I moved here, I had a whole sewing studio back in Phoenix, but I had a previous Juki 8700, and I bought this one, which is at 8700H. So it's kind of in the middle of, there's three basically levels of the Juki 8700, which is also a straight stitch only machine. It is an industrial. This is considered like a tabletop industrial, semi-industrial, because it can do like vinyl, small, like light leathers and stuff like that, but it can't do anything like crazy. My Juki over here can like basically take anything that I throw at it lately. I can't put any of like my really heavy leathers or anything like that. You would need something that's a walking foot machine. And so I'm gonna bring my machine back to kind of show you. So when we talk about different types of machines, typically if we're talking about like a domestic machines will have just a single foot, and I will put mine down and move the needle so I can, actually I guess I can just take one out of my tackle box. So I keep all my sewing stuff in this box that my partner, it did not work for his electronic stuff. And I was like, ooh, give me that for my tools, my things. So typically, if we're talking about machines that are domestic, they're only going to have, this isn't a good foot to show you. That's also not a good foot to show you. Here we go. So if we're talking about regular domestic machines, they typically have just a single foot. And this is what they look, oh my God, I have arthritis in my hands, so grip is really difficult. But they have feet like this. They're just regular feet. And this is considered a low shank foot. So oftentimes, if you buy a machine and you want to buy other feet, and you go online and it says high shank or low shank, that's really important to know. And honestly, read the manual. Your manual will tell you. And if you're like, I don't have the manual, Google it. And if you're like, it's an old machine, old machines almost always have a low shank for the majority. Or if you look up like, there's Facebook groups, Reddit posts, forums, all that kind of stuff. Like Google is your friend, because a lot of times, like with my previous Juki 8700 that I had back in Arizona, I totally messed up the timing, and some guy on YouTube who did not speak any English, he did the video in Spanish. He showed me how to change my timing, and then somebody else showed me another channel of like some military guy who repairs sewing machines. And so like through all of these videos and Reddit and YouTube and all this kind of stuff, I've been able to resolve and repair a lot of my machines and fix stuff like that. Because for the majority of time, like if you're going to talk about buying older machines, like a Singer or Kenmore or anything like that, you can fix like the all metal machines. Like this is all metal on the inside. You can fix everything basically by yourself, because everything's adjusted by screws or something, or some type of nut somewhere. Like I will show you behind me. So this is my commercial embroidery machine. This is a Happy 1201 30 Voyager. It is 20 years old as of this year, because I just looked at the paperwork from the lady that I bought it from, and it says it was bought in 2006. But like this on the inside is like all metal. I've taken off these side panels here, not on this side, but on the other side. And I've replaced the take-up lever. I've replaced, it's like a thread uptake hook. But yeah, like these. And I literally just looked up the parts manual. I Googled like Happy HCS 1201 Voyager parts manual. And then I just looked through the pictures, and I was like, oh yeah, that's what I need right there. And then the supplier Texmac Direct in North Carolina, they're the US Happy distributor. They had the part for like $3, and it took me like a good hour. Like I did have to take apart quite a few things. I had to move the thread stand because that's kind of on top of the panel. But yeah, you can fix a lot of things yourself on old machines. Even on newer machines, depending on like what the issue is. Like I was talking about my Makerspace earlier and the different machines. And like we have somebody who will literally spend time, I think she does it like once a quarter, and she'll take all of our machines out and she will take them all apart and fix them all and make sure that they're all working properly, because we have like a lot of use and a lot of people, and we want to make sure that everyone can sew. So yeah, we're talking about high shank and low shank. I will pull a foot out from my other machine and show you the difference in these types of feet. So my other machine is a Pfaff 720 Quilt Expression 720, which is so funny. All of these are like quilt machines. I don't quilt at all. So again, this is for my Juki. This is considered a low shank foot, but then we're talking about different types of domestic machines. So things like a Pfaff will have these clip-on, I think, I want to say like Brother, I don't remember what other brand has it, but they have these like flat type of clip-on feet, and you can see these are totally different, obviously, like by how they attach onto the machine. So yeah, when we're talking about high shank and low shank, when you want to go and get different feet, and I have a ton of different feet. You can buy them for really cheap on Wawak. I think the other one is like Sewing Accessories, but I've got a, ooh, what's that? Oh, okay. But I've got a Teflon foot. This is really good if you're doing like vinyl or anything that's like really sticky. Then I've got a really thin foot for if you're doing like zippers. And that's the really cool thing about sewing, is that there's all different types of feet. This is one of my favorite feet. I love this. This is called a compensating foot. And basically you can see it's got like a gap in between like where the actual foot hits and where that spot is right there. So it helps you keep a really good seam allowance while also giving you clearance on your fabric. And then we've got I've got a whole bunch of different feet. When I bought my other Juki back there, I bought it from a family when their father passed away. He was a tailor. And so I ended up getting a bunch of different feet. And then some machines, like my Juki behind me, they will have free motion feet. And these are big giant feet that you will basically attach onto the machine, and they allow you to free motion and essentially move the fabric wherever you want without having to kind of follow with the feet. So that's feet. And then when we're going to talk about needles, and okay, actually I'm going to go back, and I know I'm all over the place, but that's kind of how I be, and there's nobody here anyways. But anyways, we're talking about different machines when you're deciding and you're like, I don't know what to buy, and there's a lot of machines. If you're somebody who's just getting into sewing, you're like, I don't know if I want to do this hobby. I don't know if I want to spend the money on it. I'm not sure if that's something I'll even be interested in 6 months with my ADHD. Check out your local library. Check out your local library, your community center. See if you have even like a maker space or like a hacker space near you. Some of them are membership based, like the maker spaces and stuff. Some of them are free. I've seen free ones that are free to the community. But like the library back where I just moved recently, but the library that I lived right across from, I went there to get all different kinds of stuff from them. They had like COVID tests, and they had something else for a while that they were giving out, and I was like, oh, okay, that's cool. But while I was there, I saw all these different things that said like free sewing machines to borrow. They had a sewing club, they had a knitting club, they had a learn Spanish club, they had a German club. They had like all these different things for people to come and learn in different times. And thankfully I noticed that they had stuff that was like after work hours, because I noticed a lot of times when I was looking at joining oh my God, what are they called? Like the quilt groups. They were all like Tuesday at 11 a.m. And I'm like, I have a job at Tuesday at 11 a.m. I can't go at that time. And so that was really nice about the library, that you could go there. And I've noticed that I'm in Fairfax County in Virginia, and we have a really, really robust public library system. And a lot of our libraries actually have their own maker spaces. And I think it was like Reston Library. They have like a huge maker space with a ton of different machines. And I actually reached out to them recently to see if I can go teach there. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, if you're like, I don't know what I want to do, I don't know what kind of machine, go check out your library. Go check it out. Go try it for free. See if you can, take like a fun little class with them, even for free, and just kind of get an idea. And you're like, okay, this is cool. I want to do this. And then go on Facebook and buy somebody's old machine for $50, something like that. Because that's how I got started. I think at my first machine back when I was in college, which, oh my God, was so long ago now, was a really old like Brother something. It was like a Walmart $50 machine, and I bought it because I was like, I really want to make my coworker a baby blanket. It was a really bad baby blanket, but we all start somewhere. And after that, after I had moved back home and I was like sewing, and I was working at GoDaddy, and there was a guy that I worked with, and he had these really cool shirts on all the time, and I was like, hey, do you make those shirts? And he was like, yes. He was a liar. He did not make those shirts. It was his mom, and his mom taught me how to sew. And it took me like a month. I begged him like every week. I was like, can you ask your mom? Can you ask your mom? Can she teach me to sew? Can she teach me to sew? And then I loved her. She was awesome. I would go over there like twice a month, and she didn't drive. So I would pick up she always wanted a Caesar's pizza, and I'd pick her up a Caesar's pizza. And she had like an old Kenmore machine, and she taught me how to sew. And like her whole living room was like her studio. And she was amazing. I loved her, and I miss her a lot. And anyways, back to the machine. So when we're talking about this machine, we're going to go back. So we already talked about needles and different types of needles. Now I'm going to pull out the bobbin. And when we're talking about bobbins, every type of machine is going to have a different bobbin. Some machines will share the same class of bobbin. So there's like different classes, different sizes. For a fact, I know my these Juki specifically, they take M jumbo bobbins. And as you can see, that's so that's one bobbin. And then I will show you, actually, I have a different bobbin over here somewhere from my embroidery machine. But like, so you can see that's where the thread is. And then I will pull out a bobbin from the FOF as well. And see, this one's plastic. Why they are green, I don't know. I think there's also a blue one. I don't know, they're cool colors. I like them, but yeah, as you can see, this one's plastic and this one's metal. They are not the same. If I put this in my Juki, we're gonna have a serious problem. This would not even fit in my FOF. I couldn't do it because the FOF is really specific and it has the logo up at the top. I don't know if you can see it, but it's got the logo at the top, and that's how you know which way to put the bobbin in. And then let's see if I can pull out the bobbin. Yeah, here we go. I'll show you one of these. So then here's the bobbin for my Juki, my other Juki 8700 back there. So yeah, you can tell these are all different bobbins, all different bobbin types. And so if you're like, I want to buy a bunch of different bobbins, again, Wah-Whack. These are like 50 cents. And granted, I'm gonna be real with you, I love Wah-Whack. They're amazing. You do get what you pay for. And granted, they're selling the same stuff that other people are selling at like a wholesale price. So if you buy it there and you buy it somewhere else, you're gonna get the same stuff. It's like all comes from the same place. But as you can see, these bobbins, I don't know if I can like, but as you can see, they have a, whatever, you know, they have to be pretty flat. And what I noticed is when I bought a bunch of these from Wah-Whack is that some of them were ever so slightly crooked or just enough bent in a way that they didn't fit in my machine properly, or they didn't fit in my bobbin loader up top. So just beware, like if you're gonna buy buy 10 of them, because probably 3 or 4 of them will not be straight, which is like fine. Again, they're like 25 cents. I don't really care. And then we're talking about bobbins. This is your bobbin case. This is the bobbin case for my Juki. And the majority of bobbin cases are going to look like this. We're talking about FOFs and stuff like that that have what are called top load bobbins. So my FOF, you can't, I guess I can kind of show you. My FOF has what's called a top load bobbin. And as you can see, the bobbins, I can actually take this piece out and take my bobbin out right there. And as you can see, there's my bobbin. If we're talking about these are side load. So that's why they have these cases like this, because they have to take the bobbin and, oh, and when we're talking about loading a bobbin, every machine is different, but for a majority, think of it as a waterfall, okay? Oop, I didn't mean to kick that. My bad. So if you're thinking about it, think about it as a waterfall. You've got your, or I guess a P, or I guess this would maybe look like a, or a 9. I guess it looks like a 9 to me. But you basically think of it as a waterfall. It's coming out, and then I'm going to pull it through and make sure I get it out there at the top. And then I should be able to, I can pull my, there we go. And then when we're talking about bobbins as well, something that I don't think enough people talk about when it comes to sewing is your bobbin tension. This is really, really important. And I only got better at this really recently because I was like, oh, I know what I'm doing. I don't know what I'm doing. Okay, I do sometimes, but not all the time. When we're talking about bobbin tension, I'm actually going to show you my embroidery bobbin, which funny enough, these look pretty similar. Actually, wow, they're like really similar. But as you can see, my embroidery bobbin has the, what's called like the curly Q right here up at the top pigtail. And that's to help stay so the thread stays up towards the top. But when we're talking about bobbing tension, we're talking about bobbin tension. When we're talking about bobbin tension, something that I learned recently is that essentially you want it to drop 4 or 5 inches easily, but you don't want it to fall to the floor. You don't want it to be a struggle. And I watched a video on it, and there's like little tools that you can get for bobbin tension. But as you can see, there's 2 screws on here, and it'll always be this top screw that you're adjusting, and it's going to be righty tighty, lefty loosey, same as everything else. But essentially, you're just going to take your bobbin, and after I've already got it threaded because this is out of my embroidery machine, I basically take it and you go, oh, and you throw it, or you kind of give it a yank. This one's a little bit loose because I just changed it out, but as you can see, we'll try it with the other one because this is probably also really bad tension, and I probably need to fix it. You go like this and you go, which as you can see, that's pretty bad, and I always lose all of my little screwdrivers and stuff. Okay. So this one's pretty tight. This is the one out of my Juki right behind me. So again, I'm looking at these screws, and I know I'm gonna turn. I was a little tight, so I'm gonna go left. And I'm gonna make a pretty big adjustment just to start, just because I know it's already pretty tight to start with. So, ooh, okay, that's really loose. That's way too much. Now we're gonna go right, tight. Oh, that's still too loose. And yeah, you just keep making small adjustments until you have perfect tension. It doesn't even have to be perfect. And like honestly, only thing that matters is what is it? Horseshoes and hand grenades, whatever that is. I don't know. There are going to be a lot of people on the internet who are like, you have to be perfect, and you have to do this, and you've got to do that. Ignore all those people. F them. F them is what I got to say. Because at the end of the day, see, that's good tension. That's what we want. We're going to take it, and I'm going to test it again because I don't really care. I'm going to run out of thread on this thing anyways. That's pretty good. That's about, actually, I'm going to measure. Yeah, that's about 4 inches right there. So that's perfect. That is really good tension right there. That's exactly what we want. And so when we're talking about things like tension and we talk about the bobbin tension, something that I noticed that was a really common thing is bird nests. And so when you're threading your machine and like, let's say you just got your machine and you're like, okay, I want to practice threading. Practice it again and again and again. And every time that it starts to kind of get bunched up, take everything out and start all over. I think that got in there, I can't see. But yeah. So if you're like, I don't know if I threaded it right, or if it's, you know, I'm getting frustrated because I'm getting all these thread nests and all this kind of stuff, just always check that you've threaded everything correctly. And now that we've kind of talked about like bobbins and feet, I'll go and talk about a little bit about needles while I kind of get this set up. And this is Glide Thread, by the way. I started using this for my embroidery machine, and then I saw that you could use it for your sewing machine, and I was like, genius. Why would I spend any more money? So next, when we're talking about sewing machines, I'm sure you get confused because there's a lot of needle types. There are so many different needle types, and I'm going to kind of confuse you for just a second. So I'm going to show you a bunch of different needle types and a bunch of different brands and a bunch of different stuff, because I kind of want you to understand that there are a lot of things out there, but at the end of the day, we're going to what? Read the manual. We're going to read the manual, baby, and Google, but not the AI stuff. I always like go to the old quilting forums and like read what people say, or like a Facebook group that I'm in. So when we talk about machine needles, I'm sure if you go to like Michael's or RIP Joann's, you went to Joann's, you probably saw a lot of these on the shelf. Or maybe you saw something like this, which these are hand needles. Or maybe, I don't actually think they carried any needles like this, but maybe you've seen needles like this. Or maybe they've even looked, I'm going to pull out one more. Or maybe they've looked like this. Yeah, so every machine will have a different needle type. A lot of them will share, especially when it comes like to domestics. So like my Pfaff takes basically any of these Schmetz, because they're all kind of like universal for the most part, or like these Jersey, you know. So those are for my Pfaff. And then my Juki takes, it says right here, H8X1 or HLX5. And so that's it's talking about the shaft and the shaft length. You don't really need to worry about that. Just, you need to think about, like, if you buy something that's like a Brother or like a Singer or something like that, you probably just only need these. And there's a lot of different needle types. So like I've got Jersey, I've got Universal, I've got Stretch, I got Ballpoint, I got Microtex, and you're like, oh my God, Kelsey, so many words. I don't know what any of those mean. It's okay. If you Google Schmetz needle chart, you can find, there's a really actually helpful one, because if you look at the top of these needles, you can see there's like a color. And each needle type from Schmetz at least has a color band at the top. Because I'll show you these other needle types, and they do not have anything at the top, at least at color-wise. And at least with those, they have what's called the shank. And the shank is, there's going to be a flat side, and depending on your machine, sometimes the flat is on the left, sometimes it's on the right. But honestly, you'll figure it out. Like, you'll try to fit it in there, and you'll be like, it's not going in. Then you'll turn it and be like, it's going in now. So just kind of see which way is left and which way is right. And then different types of machines will have different needles. So this machine and my Pfaff, they take ones that have a flat side. So I know which way, because the needle is technically turned with the eye to like the left or the right. I can't see the front of the eye of the needle because the way the machine is. But if we're talking like, I think my Juki is also a side, but the Juki is a little bit different. The Juki is, it takes one that does not have a flat side, and I will pull out another one so I can kind of show you. So as you can see, I'm spinning it in my hand. There's no flat side, it's all the same. But these at the top, they will say kind of like the brand at least, or like these are Grossbeckert, and they will say, like this one says at the top, it says GB 75. Yeah, because this is 7511. And so these are sharps. So these have a really sharp point, like almost like an arrow. And I have these for my embroidery machine because when I do vinyl and things like that, I don't want to use a ballpoint because I want something that's a little bit sharp to get through that. But again, when we're talking about needle types, like you can see this says DBX K5, and then I'll pull this one out. This one says DBX1, and then this one says, you know, oh, I'll try and find a universal one. I keep pulling out every Jersey. Then as you can see, like HAX1, DBX1, DBXK5, they're all going to be different, and every machine is going to have a different different type of needle. Now the brand does not matter. I prefer Oregon. As you can see, I have a ton of Oregon and a ton of different for all my different machines. Excuse me. I like Schmetz for my Pfaff a lot. They seem to work just fine on that. I haven't tried anything else with it because I only bought it a couple months ago. But yeah, so when it comes to needle types, don't be overwhelmed. I know you see all this stuff at the store and you're like, I don't know what I need. But for the majority of people, you really only need either your universal or your stretch, or maybe a Microtex, depending on what you're sewing. But for the majority of people, if you're just sewing clothes, and you know, you're sewing, like, let's say you're sewing something that's, we'll say a knit. I'll show you. This is technically a knit, even though it's fleece, but it has stretch. And for something like this, I would want a stretch needle because it's going to kind of move under my needle. Yeah, so okay, so back to this. We were talking about all the needle types and different types of needles. And again, look up the Schmetz needle guide. That gives you like the point type. It tells you what it's meant for, what the color band is at the top, and like what the recommended uses are for. And that's my recommendation, because I do not have all day to tell you all the different types between, like, I think there was like 25. I looked at it before I started this live stream to kind of see what was happening. So then when we talk about threading, I think that's like the biggest difficulty for people, is understanding how to thread their machine, or how to get it in the tension discs correctly. And honestly, my best advice is go and look at the manual. I love the manual. I love the manual. I always reference the manual, mostly because I know that somebody took a lot of time to make all those illustrations and show you where the thread goes. But you can also look up videos. I don't like watching videos of people thread, which obviously I'm about to show you how to thread a machine, but it's just to give you an idea, and it's just to show you that it's not scary, it's not crazy. And I have messed up threading my machines. I have put my bobbin in backwards. I have put the wrong needle in there. I have done everything check off on the, mess up list as a sewist. So I'm going to, now mine has this thread tension bar up here. So I have to go down one and then I go back on top of the other. That's not really important. What's important here is this tension disc. So when we talk about tension discs, and I can't really, I don't know how I can, I guess I can take you off them. So when we're talking about tension discs, you can see this has like a separation. There is two pieces to this tension disc. And essentially all I'm doing is if you have flossed your teeth, you're just like flossing, sorry, I'm trying to like hold this and show you at the same time, but you're just flossing that thread through the tension disc. Because essentially, that's how it's holding the thread, and that's how it's going to keep your tension. And that's where I see the biggest difficulty and the biggest error, is that people are not putting it in the tension disc correctly. And if you're ever unsure, hold one end of your thread and the other and pull it. Act like you are flossing that tooth really good, and you should be able to see the front of the tension disc move, and that's how you know you did it right. And then I'm going to go down, and it's been a while since I threaded this machine, so I can guarantee I'm going to mess it up because it's been a while. Yeah, so then we go through the next tension disc, and this one you can't see, but you can feel it. In a lot of machines, when they have this second tension disc, and a lot of them, they'll be behind in your machine. You won't be able to see it because like my FOF, the second one is behind it, so I can't actually see it. But a lot of them, it's affected by the foot. So whenever you're threading machine, foot up, always. Make sure your foot is up, always, because it's going to open up your tension discs, and you will have a much easier time making sure that you get your thread in between those discs. So now I'm going to go into my second one, and then I'm going to go, wait, is it like this? I can't remember. Yeah, I think it's like this. Yep. So, and I'm just following, like, it goes through the tension disc, and then it goes down, and then it goes through this hook here, and through this, and then there's a top piece, and we go back through here, awesome, like that, and then there's this piece right above my needle, and I put my thread in there. Oh, I get in there. And then my machine has an auto needle threader. I never use them. I don't ever use any of the like auto features. They never seem to work for me. I don't care for them. There's just more stuff to break. And like I mentioned earlier, all the different machines, less computer, the better. Because things with screens and all the buttons, they break. And unfortunately, unlike a lot of other electronics like your phone or your tablet or whatever, where you can go and buy a replacement screen, it's really cheap. You can go get it fixed for like $100. A lot of those screens cost like $500. Because I found one that was like a broken, awesome Bernina, and it had a broken screen. And then I looked at the cost of the replacement screen. And I said, never mind. And honestly, like anything with computers, oh my God, they're making like Wi-Fi computerized barbecues now. Why do I need a computer on my barbecue? But anyways, the less computers, the better. And I know my FOF has a very fancy computer on board. I bought that one for that specific reason. But my my other Juki and my other Juki do not have a computer system. And obviously my embroidery machine is a CNC embroidery, which is, yes, computer numerical or whatever. You know what that means? It means it's computer guided. And then we get down to the needle, and I know you always, at least if you're in the United States, we always read left to right. You're always going to thread on your machine left to right. Or just like my math teacher says, he's always like, which way do we read? From left to right? And he's like, yes, exactly. That's why all the variables should be on the left. And he's like, we start from that side. Oh my God, I'm thinking about math on a Sunday. Also, speaking of math, sewing is a lot of calculus and geometry, and as you can see, I'm like struggling to. I think I got it. Yeah. Oh, and then I pulled it right out. So Z, it's okay if it takes you a couple tries, and there are things that can help you. I have used. Where is it? I love these things. They are. You can get them. There's forceps, but these are Tula Pink ones. I just got them because I love the rainbow Tula Pink. But you can see they've got like a pretty tight and pointy tip there. But with that, I will use that to help me thread or thread my embroidery machine. Or you can use something like craft tweezers. Those also work really, really well. And then once you've got your thread threaded, oh, it's twisted around my needle. We're just going to pretend that doesn't happen. So, okay, you got your thread threaded, okay? Pull it behind the foot. Pull it behind the foot, okay? And then, at least with mine, I can go like this. I can pull it down, I rotate it, and I know I will get the bobbin up eventually. Yep, see, you can't see it, but it is a white thread. And all I did was I just turned my needle towards me, and it will pull up the thread. And if you're at a beginning, if you're just starting out sewing and you find it really difficult to get it started, or it finds like the thread is not grabbing or the bobbin's not picking up correctly, do that. Turn it towards you. You can even do it twice. Yeah, see? And I know that I've got my bobbin out and it's poking out through the hole. And something that happens a lot of times is people will start sewing and the bobbin is like, just does not feel like catching up. It's like, no thanks. So you can pull out a nice long tail. And when I'm talking about a tail, I mean a tail of thread. And that's usually like this much. Like, I guess that's 3 inches. No, that can't be right. Yeah, 3 inches. Like about 3 inches. You want it on the end. You can do more. You can do 10 inches. Whatever makes you feel comfortable. And like, honestly, that's the awesomest thing. Nobody is watching you in your home. Nobody's judging you. Nobody cares how long your threads are. Nobody cares if your bobbin and your top thread match. Nobody is silently judging you. We all started somewhere. I have messed up so many projects. Even now, I've been sewing for 10 years and I still mess things up. And I'm like, oh my God, how did I do that? But sometimes it's like, we're just so excited for the project. We're just like so in the zone that we don't think about that kind of stuff. But yeah, you just pull the tail. And the tail will give you a really good starting point, because then once you get started, there's really nowhere for the thread, because that's what happens is like when you don't have the tail and you start sewing, what happens is that the bobbin will turn and instinctively pull that thread back down because it doesn't have a long enough tail to kind of grip on. And then that's like where people get the frustration, because they're like, why do I have to keep trying this again? And it gets the, bird nests. And with the bird nests, again, just always check your threading. Like, that is my biggest recommendation. Read the manual. Read it again. If you're still unsure, read it a third time. And if you're like, I don't know what the manual means, go on YouTube, Reddit, some old quilting forum. I'm sure there's like tons about stuff out there. But yes, if you're ever unsure of how to thread your machine, there is probably something out there that can show you how to do it. And just practice again and again and again. It's like muscle memory almost. And after a while, you just kind of like, oh, yep, that's how it works. And I have so many machines that I do forget how to thread some of them sometimes, that I have to look up the manual, especially my 8700. I don't use that one as often. So I'm often looking up the manual and how to thread it and do all different kinds of stuff on maintenance on it. So we've talked about bobbin, we've talked about feet, we've talked about needles, we've talked about bobbins, we've talked about threading. The other thing that I kind of wanted to talk about was pins and pinning, and what I use, what I recommend. I guess not what I recommend, but you can use whatever. I don't really care. Like I said, ain't nobody in your house. We ain't watching you. I don't know what you using. I like that this one has the ball. So anyways, when it comes to like fabric basting, this is my go-to. Yep, the Craft Bond. Because this stuff is really, really cheap. It washes off. It's temporary, you know, it whatever. Just make sure you're well ventilated because aerosol. This is another one that I really like. It's OTIF 505, but this stuff is very expensive. Or very expensive. It's pretty expensive for a bottle. I think this was like, wait, do I have the thing on here? I think it was like $12. I don't know. It was more than I thought I should spend on something like that, but I like it a lot. I use this for my embroidery because I float things, which I will talk about that stuff in another video. But yeah, I like these if we're talking like I don't want to deal with pins. It's something that doesn't have a ton of stretch and I just need it to hold down. These work great for that. Now if we're talking like, okay, I don't want to pin because they poke me. I have that issue. I love my sewing clips. These things are awesome. Again, Wah-Whack. You can get them on Amazon, but I like Wah-Whack because they're cheaper and I like supporting them. But they're just like little plastic doodads. And from my understanding, on the back, there's little markings, and those mark different gauges or something. But I like these. I say I like these, but as my arthritis has gotten worse in my hands, I struggle with these because, as you can see, they have a metal spring in the center. And what happens is that. And then I'll go to pick up another one, and I'll be like, okay, ready? Okay, this time. You got it. And then I'm like, okay, we're going to come back to this project later. But then when I was working with this, I don't have any of it over here. But if you've seen on my threads or on my Instagram, I made a really fuzzy dragon recently with what's called Shannon Lux. And that stuff is ridiculously slippery. It goes all over the place. And I tried pins, I tried the clips, and they just don't have enough grip to hold both sets together. So I bought a bunch of different pins on Wah-Whack because I was like, I'm going to try everything because I had, where'd they go? I put them somewhere. Right, here they are. So I had these. These are called ballpoint pins. As you can see, they have a ball on the top. Makes them a ballpoint. And these are kind of short. Like, they're not super long. Those don't work for me. They're hard to sew over. It just doesn't, they're not long enough, you can see. So then I got these, oh, freaking cute, adorable, heart long quilting pins. I believe they're from the Dritz brand. I bought them from Wah-Whack again. But they're really cute. They give you like multicolors. There's pink in there too. Like, adorable little hearts. But they're nice and long. And if we're talking about this compared to the ballpoint, you can see like the difference alone in the size. And then I also bought these, what are called magic pins. Oh, that's a bent one. I need to see if they make like heavier duty ones. I really like these. These are awesome. They have like this grippy thing on the back, or on the end, I mean, and they're pretty flat, so I can sew over them. For the most part, my machine has no problem. I don't recommend it, but like I said, these are really long, so you'd go parallel and not perpendicular, or I guess, no, you go perpendicular, not parallel. See, that's why I'm taking math class again. And then I got these other pins, which I wish that there probably is I try to look and see if there's like I think that same brand I just showed you, which is the magic pins, they also make a fork pin. These are freaking cool. So these are called a fork pin. These are awesome. So if you're somebody who like struggles to keep your seams together, You can use these. They're awesome because you stick them over the seams, and then when you're sewing together, they ain't shifting. So I really like that. Awesome. These are great sewing tools. Then we're talking about other sewing tools. You're like, what do I need? What's important? Honestly, all you really need. Oh, we need to talk about thread really quick. Where's my? I'll use this. No. Where is it? So I talked about the Glide earlier. This is Glide thread. And then I have another brand, and that's 40 weight. That's important. So that's 40 weight. And there's things called PEX and weight. And honestly, if you're just like sewing regular stuff, Glide 40 weight polyester trilobal is fine, which when we're talking about trilobal, just means that it's 3 strands twisted together. And then this is what I was using when I was making bags, but this is Gutermann Mara 100. I get it from, again, Wawak. I buy like basically everything from them that's not embroidery stuff. If we're talking embroidery stuff, it's falling out of my head. Wiedner, World Wiedner. They are awesome. I love them. Amazing prices, really nice people. But yeah, if we're talking about sewing thread, don't feel overwhelmed. There's a lot of stuff out there and there's a lot of information. If you're like, I know I want to sew clothes and I know I'm going to be sewing clothes that are made with cotton, you just need ballpoint, you just need polyester thread. You can get 100% cotton thread. I don't like it because it doesn't have any stretch, it doesn't have any give. Now, if you're sewing something like what are those bowl cozy things, always use 100% cotton. Because what is polyester? It's plastic. And what happens when you light plastic or make plastic hot? Melts. Yeah, we don't want that. We don't want stuff melting in the microwave. So please don't put polyester thread in the microwave. But yeah, those are all really great sewing tools. And then also like when it comes to hand sewing, I got these again from Wawak. Man, you've been hearing that word a lot, Wawak. I just got these to try these out because I also had like this box of like Singer, bunch of different sizes. And then I also tried this because I do a lot of hand sewing when I'm closing up my plushes. But yeah, there's a lot of different stuff out there. There's a lot of overwhelming information. But honestly, like if you are just sewing, if you're just getting started and you're like, I don't even know if I want to buy a machine, go check out your library, see if they have, you know, a machine that you can borrow, and then just kind of start from there. And the biggest thing is like sewing, at least for me, has always been a community. When I learned how to sew, I learned from somebody who was a mom of a guy I worked with. And then the people that I continued to sew with that I knew I found from Facebook groups. And those people showed me other Facebook groups. And they were people who introduced me to intersectionality and, you know, being inclusive in the sewing space and making things adaptable and fit more sizes and including people. And that's kind of like, I think that sewing is about community, and you should feel comfortable reaching out to people and asking people for help. And I know that there's been a lot of discourse, especially on Threads. There was a post recently about, well, if you don't have this kind of machine, you aren't anything. Lady, that's what I gotta say to you. Because guess what? The lady who taught me how to sew was using a $50 Kenmore. And she's probably made better, more beautiful things than I've ever made in my entire life. The type of machine you have does not affect, except like we talked about, the small handheld and little tiny plastic ones. Other than that, the type of machine you have does not affect you as a person, will not affect your quality. It will if it is a user error. That's all I got to say. And like, that's being real. Like a lot of the time, the issues that you're having or the issues that people are having is because they're like so engrossed in trying to just sew that they're not taking the time to sit down and think, okay, well, did I thread it correctly? Is my needle in right? Did I load my bobbin correctly? Is my bobbin tension good? Is my foot tension good? Is my foot pressure good? And all that kind of stuff. What did I say again? The manual. I love the manual. It's always my favorite. It's where I go to if I don't know what a button is, or if I don't know what something does, or if I'm unsure. And yeah, just always feel comfortable asking questions in the community. And F the snooty people, man. They're always going to exist in the sewing world. They're always going to think that they're better than you, that they're have higher quality things because they have a fancier machine. No. I've seen people with like $8,000 worth of machines pump out dog water, quite frankly. And I don't judge other people. I don't care. Those people don't affect me. But I don't go out into the world and be like, because I have all these machines, I am better than you. Because I am not. I'm not better. I'm not perfect. I think everyone in this community has a place. Everyone's welcome. Everyone has a place to learn. And sewing should be a welcoming and inclusive community. And if people are not like that, I will find you and I will make sure you do not feel comfortable in this community. Because I want everyone to feel comfortable learning how to sew. Sewing is a really, really beneficial skill to have. I remember back when I was single, back in the day, guys used to be like, wow, what an apocalyptic skill you have. That's amazing. And I'd be like, yeah, I'm not sewing the holes in your underwear, brother. Get a move on. And you know what? People think it's like, they're always like, wow, you're so talented. I am not talented. I am skilled. I had to learn how to get these skills, how to get to where I'm at. And it's taken me a really long time. And even then, I still make so many mistakes. I make stuff that is crap. It does not look good, does not work, whatever. But I love sewing, and I know that I love it because I will make a mistake or I will struggle with something, and I will immediately think, God, I can't wait to make another one of these. And that's the best feeling. And like when it comes to clothing, and like if you're somebody who's like, I'm learning how to sew because I want to make my own clothing, power to you, man. That's what got me into sewing. I used to make a shirt every day before I went to work. And granted, I was making like knit shirts that were like 2 pieces and a neckband. Oh, I'm sorry. 2 pieces front and back and the sleeves plus the neckband, so 5 pieces. But like, there is a community for everyone. Everyone's welcome, except for the nasties, the Nazis, the racists, the bigots. Y'all ain't welcome, especially at least in my community. I will make sure you're not welcome here. But yeah, there's a lot of us out there who want to make sure that the space is inclusive and welcoming, and that people have the space to ask questions and not feel silly or be like, what a dumb question to ask. Because honestly, I just turned 31 this past week, and I'm taking a college algebra class, and I ask questions all the time. And sometimes I feel so silly, but then I remember that there might be somebody else who has that question. Maybe somebody also was wondering about it, but they just didn't know how to ask or how to do it. And so, yeah, you might spark a conversation if you ask people how to do stuff. So don't ever feel like you're not welcome in the sewing community unless you're a racist or a bigot. Then you're definitely not welcome. Okay? But if you're nice and you're cool and you're respectful and you're inclusive and you make things accessible, then hell yeah, you're welcome in my space. But I want to do my next video. Not that anyone showed up, but hey, that's how we all get started. My next video, I really want to go over, now that we've learned to thread the machine, we've put our bobbin in, what comes next? What do we do from there? And I kind of want to go over patterns and PDF patterns versus paper patterns and all that kind of stuff. But thanks, everyone. I appreciate you attending my live stream, and hopefully I will get better at this and I will be more organized. But thanks. And if you have any questions, hit me up on Threads or Instagram. Not on Facebook. I don't answer those messages, but I'll answer on Threads. I'm always happy to answer sewing questions. Like I said, everyone's welcome in the sewing community. Thanks.